If you're following along with our Bible reading plan, you'll know that right now we're in the midst of working through a very long psalm, Psalm 119. Now, if you're paying attention, you're likely not having too much trouble figuring out the focus of this psalm, since the writer makes the same point almost every other verse. He loves God's laws. He delights in God's decrees. He rejoices in God's statutes. They're all life to him. I'm struck, as we go through this psalm, by how opposite that sentiment sounds from how Christians today talk about the Old Testament law. Love it? Ha! Thank goodness Jesus came along so we're no longer under the weight and requirements of the law. That, I think, is more how the sentiment goes. And certainly there's truth to that. Because of Jesus and what he's done, the law isn't our ticket to righteousness in God's sight. Jesus himself provides that. But I fear that if that's the extent of our consideration of God's law, then we're missing something incredibly valuable and important. I want to suggest that there are two ways we can think about these things that the Old Testament calls God's precepts or statutes or commands. One, you can think of them simply as a laundry list of rules you have to obey. Or you can see them as insight into the heart of God, revelation about what he loves and what he doesn't love. I want to suggest that the writer of Psalm 119 seems to very much understand God's laws, not just as a bunch of rules, but almost like a relational roadmap. He's grateful for the commands, delighted in the statutes. He's thankful for the rules. Why? Because they let him know something more about God, and therefore help him to be able to live in a way that honors and blesses the one that he most wants to honor and bless, God. One of the things I'd say is true in my relationships is that the closer someone is to me, the more deeply someone matters in my life, the more I want to know how I can honor them and demonstrate my care for them. I don't want to be left in the dark to guess at things and hope I somehow stumble into doing that well. No, I want to know, what actions honor them and which don't. I want to know when I'm bringing joy and when I'm just being frustrating. I want to know when I'm adding value or when I'm just imposing. I want to know when I'm contributing to the relationship or when I'm maybe eroding it. So I'm thankful when a person can communicate those things to me so that I can be confident that what I'm intending to express by my words and actions is actually what they're experiencing. Now, you might think that, if a person listed all those things, wouldn't it just sound like a bunch of rules? Well, I'd say they're actually really helpful bits of information that let me better honor and care for someone. So when it comes to God, who should matter most to me, even post-Jesus, his law is still incredibly valuable because it reveals to me so much about what he loves and helps lead me into a life where I can know if I'm honoring and blessing him, which I very much want to do. So the next time you're reading some statutes or rules or laws in the Old Testament and you're tempted to just skip them because you think it's just useless information, don't. In fact, do the opposite. Slow down. Read them carefully. And ask yourself, what does this tell me about what God loves? And then find some meaningful way to put that knowledge into action, knowing that when you do so, it delights the heart of God.